and you're making sure you're safe. So that's great. That stuff will keep you alive out there. But when you get home, you can't turn it off.
Oh my God. Exactly.
And that's when it starts becoming a problem.
Yeah, because we're like 1,000 years away from Vikings. When people are like mashing each other with axes and stuff, you know? And so I'm like, well, that's not, in terms of evolutionary scale, that's not a whole lot of time. So I'm surprised there's not more people like mashing each other with like, you know, like Viking sort of stuff. We've all sort of really quickly evolved to that. Even the way that war has. Have you seen 1917?
Don't think so.
Oh my God, that's a hectic movie. That is a hectic movie. It's all like a sort of a one-shotter all the way through, follows these two guys in World War I, but through the trenches and the rats, and you just like, it's such a visceral experience. And that was only like 100 years ago. Yeah. It's like, that's ridiculous that we got to this point now. So there is things that would be definitely falling through the cracks. Yeah.
Yeah. And once people get it, you know, and like know that, they're like, oh my gosh, so, okay, so this has turned up to help me. Right. So, but now how do I get control over it? Yeah. So I kind of think about it, you know, with the Spider-Man movies where Spider-Man gets his powers and he doesn't know what to do. And he's like stuck in the corner upside down. And so it's like that. It's like this PTSD guy has turned up to help you, but you don't know how to use your power yet. Yeah. So that's what we've got to teach you. What is the function of this behavior? And then how do you use it?
Exactly. And so it sounded like it was going really well. And so 2018 you started.
I think so.
And at this point in time, we're in 2021.
Yep.
And this is all coming to an end.
Yes. So we got a federal government grant from Department of Communities to run a pilot, which is what we've done. So we've seen over 100 people and we've provided over 1,000 sessions, all free to the consumer. Mm-hmm. And we thought in that 2 years we'd be able to raise some more money, get some grants or, you know, hit up business and those sorts of things. But then COVID happened and we just haven't.
Did you get more calls during COVID?
Not really, no, because police officers continued to work all the way through. So nothing really changed for them except that it was maybe a bit busier. Yeah. And then soldiers, you know, like the army was out there, the military was out there helping with COVID response as well. Yeah. And same with the fireys, with the bushfires, and obviously paramedics are out there as well.
Yeah,
so it didn't really change and we kept on going all the way through. Yeah. Even lockdowns, we just did phone appointments. We did some where we sat in the car park because we weren't allowed in the building. You know, we sat 2 meters away and had a chat that way. Whatever we could do, we just kept going. Yep. Yeah,
okay. And so what's some of the strategies you've had? So how much did you have for that pilot studies? For the pilot, 2 year was 400 and...
Yeah, 464. Yeah. We got over 2 years. Yeah. So we grew from myself and Daniel to 5 staff and an office finally. Yeah. Which was awesome. Yeah. And then, we've slowly been running out, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we've kind of had last ditch efforts all over the place, but there's nothing sustainable, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you class this service as, in your experience now, essential?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's nowhere, so there's a lot of psychologists out there in the world and social workers and mental health services, but there's nothing specific for first responders. So veterans have Open Arms, which is the government-funded Department of Veterans Affairs counselling service, which is awesome. So veterans can access that, but police, fire, ambulance, corrections, where do you go? So you can go internal. So they've all got psych units inside of their organisations. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, worldwide, there's a perception that if you go into your psychs inside your organisation, there's going to be career limiting.
Or rumours or, you don't want to go, you don't want to tell your inner secrets to somebody you see every day.
But even you don't want to tell the organisation that you're struggling because what if? And, it's not true, but the perception is that there's no confidentiality, that, your chain of command will find out that you're struggling and they'll be like, oh, well, better take your weapon off you.
You look like a weak link. Yeah, weapon. Yeah, exactly.
Better take your weapon off you. Better send you home on sick leave. Yeah. Or maybe you shouldn't get promoted then if you can't handle it. All these sorts of myths. Yeah. Which is not true at all. That's not what happens, but that's what people think happens. And so that stops them from seeking help internally. Yeah. And then if they go to EAP, like the employee assistance programs, or if they go outside to a private psych, some psychs are amazing, but you got to find them and you don't know which ones know about policing and which ones don't. So that was the gap. We wanted to be like, hey, we've served too. We're coppers, we're army, we're paramedics, and now we're mental health professionals. Yeah. So come talk to us because we'll already get it. And people felt really safe doing that. So the demand was huge.
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, when the wheels start falling off, it's a weird feeling, you know, like, I kind of picture it as like a billy cart going down a hill and like, which I have made many shitty billy carts in my time, but like, and the wheels sort of like look a little shaky and then they sort of like come off like a, you know, but when that starts to happen, it's really hard to hold little things together. You know, if you get a big power bill come in or your rego you weren't expecting or something like that, and you can barely pay the rent based on whatever you're doing, you know, it just is such a weird feeling.
And it's so sad as well. So all of these people we've been looking after who are on their way to recovery, some have recovered and gone back to work, which is amazing, but there's other people who haven't finished yet. You know, we still had more things that we wanted to do and I've got nowhere to send them because unfortunately with COVID and with mental health in the community becoming more and more of an issue, there's no, like all the psychs have got 6-month wait lists. And some just don't take new referrals at all. So I have all these people that I want to keep looking after, but I can't even send them anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's kind of scary too, in a way.
Yeah. And so what happens, worst case scenario, if no one gets support? I mean, I guess you're walking along the streets and you see homelessness. Yeah. And that, it weirdly, like I think 10 years ago, I don't remember really seeing homelessness like I see now. Yeah. In Fremantle, of, you know, offices in Fremantle, but also in the city as well. I was just in there this morning and you're just like, Jesus, there's a lot of people rough sleeping. Yeah. And why would they be doing that? And it must be either drugs or mental illness or drug-related mental illness or anything like that. Yeah. But sometimes
it's financial hardship.
Yeah. And I think of the stuff that's like gave me nightmares for months. It was like a movie. You know, the Neverending Story fucked with me for like, 6 years of my life. But like, that's not reality. And I could have any point gone, that's just a stupid movie, you know, that wolf, whatever. But this is the real reality for a lot of people. Yeah. And so without a service like yours, you know, that's kind of what you're looking at. Yeah. Yeah. The exacerbation of an already.
Potentially, yeah. So obviously with WA Police, those guys can go back to their health and safety branch and they will find them somewhere, you know, so they'll be looked after properly. Yeah. But yeah, it's still that. I think the other thing is psychology or social work, you know, you bond with the person, you know, and so if you've met somebody, get along with them and then you've told them all your secrets and you've gone through all your trauma stuff for a year and now you have to start again with somebody else completely from scratch that you've never met, like that, you know, is really distressing for people too.
Yeah. Yeah, because it does take a long time for that trust and the openness, doesn't it? And it might take, sessions?
It could take, I've had veterans where they've taken a whole year to feel comfortable enough to tell me anything about them. Yeah. So they come every week to say that they don't want to take up somebody else's spot. Yeah. Yeah. But everybody I see says that because they're all those sorts of people. They're the sort of people who want to serve their country and their community and they don't want to take, other people's spots, you know. But I'm like, every single one of you says the same thing and all of you are deserving of getting some help.
Yeah. And the way you think about it is you're essentially the guardian angel for our guardian angels.
Yeah, well, that was our whole thing, was about like, let us help these guys help themselves so they can get back out on the front line and look after our community again, because that's what they want to do. So I think that was the other thing in the past. We thought, oh, well, you know, if policing makes you feel bad, shouldn't you get away from policing? So like, you know, not be a police officer anymore. Yeah. But it doesn't work because it's part of your identity and you take it with you. And you also take all your trauma with you in your head. Yep. Just because you're away from the job doesn't stop the nightmares and flashbacks. Yep. So what we'd rather do is go, let's just get you functional again. So let's fix all of that stuff and then go back to the job you absolutely love, you know, and continue on for another 10 years.
And you need people doing that job. Like, what are you going to do? Just keep recycling, like reaming through people, spitting them out the other end?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And the society is going to stay the same or get worse. If you've ever watched or played Cyberpunk or watched any of those futuristic things, you're like,
dystopia.
Exactly, like Mad Max style, you know, and you're kind of like, all right, we definitely need, you know, society.
And we need those coppers and fireys that have been around for 25, 30 years and know all the stuff, you know?
Yeah. My mum's a nurse and I'm like, when I fall off the monkey bars and wind myself, I'm just like, oh, thank God you're here. I'd be in big trouble. Like, but a car crash and something like that is totally different. Yeah. Killer fish. So, okay. So let's just talk financials here. So what kind of figure are you looking at to make this sustainable?
So we need 800 to keep us going, kind of best case. Well, I guess that's that would be our golden, you know, perfect. Yep. That's to cover all our staff and our rent and everything and keep our service free. Yeah. We could probably scrape by on 500. Yeah. Or $1 million plus, we'd be all over it.
And is that
amazing.
how long does that go?
For about a year.
For a year.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, good. There should be money available for that. Who have you spoken to and why have you not been able to find that?
So about a year ago, so I was originally being half a CEO and half the clinical services director, and I had to choose at that point. So I chose to do the clinical work and continue on seeing people. And then we hired a CEO, Terence Cook, who's an ex-army officer, 25 years, lots and lots of deployments.
Wow.
So he really understood the military side.
Yep.
And he has gone to everyone you could think of. So like every politician, like local members, state and federal. He's hit up some ridiculous amount of businesses, just like anything, you know, could you give us like $1,000, you know, here and there. Applied for all of the grants that were available.
Yep.
And just nothing.
That's a ton of work.
Yeah, so much work. Like all, you know, he's been up nights, weekends, just working, trying to get us funding, and it just...
How can there be nothing for this service?
I think there's a lot of funding out there for the military side, like for veterans, and it's because it's federal, you know, whereas first responders is state-based. So you've got that. And so...
But our state government in Western Australia is better than our federal government.
And then, I don't know, like it just gets more and more complex the more you dig into it.
Yeah.
You know, like St John Ambulance is a private company. So
Really?
entirely up to them what they want to do.
So are they?
Yeah.
Really? I did not know that.
Yep. So
Jesus.
entirely up to them what they want to do.
Yeah.
WA Police, amazing, have been really, like we've collaborated a lot and we look after lots of those guys and they will pay for the sessions, which is amazing. And we've been in talks with Department of Fire and Emergency Services as well. Corrections, we haven't quite got there yet, but they're really interested. FedPol sends through a few
Why would
as well.
corrections be interested?
Similarly, like those guys see some stuff as well. And initially I didn't even think about corrections officers, but I had a few come through and I was like, do you know what? It's just the end of policing, really, right? It's the same stuff. You're dealing with violent assaults and all sorts of things going on. It's just in an enclosed environment.
Yeah.
But they see the same stuff and deal with the same issues.
Yeah.
So we wanted to add them in as part of, and they serve in uniform too. And there's also a lot of crossover. We call it our multi-uniform community, but there's a lot of crossover, like guys who were in the military join the police or join corrections or vice versa. So everyone kind of, there's lots of people who are dual-hatted sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long will it, so it's, today, it's going?
Yeah, so at the moment there is no funding going forward.
Yeah.
And so we're closing our doors on the 1st of August.
Oh, that's really soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus. All right. If there's anyone out there
Yes,
that's
please.
listening, this is something you need. And it doesn't seem like a lot of money for the service that you're providing. No. Yeah, 800. So what's your plan if you can't do this?
This is what I'm trying to figure out now. Yeah. So I've been talking to all sorts of people about all sorts of things. How can we do this? Like, how can we keep this going? Because the need is there, you know? So basically all our staff, so we're ceasing operations. We're closing the door, ceasing operations, which means that there'll be no more counselling, there'll be no one-on-one peer support. But our community is so strong that our coffee groups are going to continue.
Yep.
We'll put on events and things here and there if we can get donations and we can do things for free and collaborate with other organisations. And our board will continue, who are all volunteers and all current and ex-serving. So that will continue. We'll continue trying to figure out what's the business model so that we can reopen again.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not going to just go get a job at the supermarket or something?
I may personally do that, but I'll be working in the background on how do I get Soldiers and Sirens back up again.
This is it now, in your blood now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was what I'm supposed to be doing in the world. Yeah.
And you were a police in the police force yourself? Yeah.
So I was a police officer for 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What made you want to get into it to start with?
Well, what everybody says is you want to help your community and do something different, I guess.
Yeah.
But then when you get in there, you're like, whew, okay, this is a whole different job to what I thought it was. But I just think it's one of those jobs where it's like, if you can, then you should.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt about it. I was like, I can do this work and I really like people.
Yeah.
And so I want to go and help people.
Yeah.
Which, like I say, is different when you get out on the road. But I think you are helping people. It's just in a different way.
Yeah, it's that old saying, lead a horse to water, can't make it drink, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
But even if you can genuinely like people, regardless of their behaviour, I think that makes a big difference as well.
Like non-judgmental.
Yeah, so just because, the job is that you have to go, right, you've done this thing that's against the law and now I have to charge you and all of that. But you can do that in a way where, you know, you're like,